store page to function properly and to be functional, as I mentioned in the intro section, it should mirror what's happening in the app itself. If that's not working, you're getting less revenue, you're losing users, it's not working as expected. So
Hello world, welcome to the Pocket Gamer podcast with your hosts, me, Brian Baglow, and the OG of optimization, Miss Peggy and Salz. Hello Peggy, good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Brian. And here we are back in 2026, another year of the PocketGamer.biz podcast, and another year if you're out there to say to yourself, New Year's resolutions. What's yours, by the way, Brian?
I've already achieved mine. Mine was to finish this big piece of game strategy I've been
Woo!
writing for the Scottish Government, and I did. I finished it on Monday, and I'm
Wow.
launching it next Wednesday. So everything else this year is just golden as far as I'm concerned. It's been 2 years. It's been a huge slog,
Wow.
massive piece of work. So, all the other stuff, quitting drinking, walking away from my desk, getting out in the sunshine, playing with the dog, teaching my 9-year-old to code, those aren't resolutions. Those are just my time off. So, yeah, it should be an
Fantastic.
interesting year.
I am so impressed. And actually, I mean, I've seen this on social. I want to say, first of all, I admire what you're doing for the ecosystem, and we need to bring that into the show as well. But we will be meeting at Pocket Gamer London, and we can chat about that at PGC London, what you're doing and what's next. I'm thinking about New Year's resolutions for our audience as well.
Mhm.
And some of them are probably saying, you know what? Number one, do not leave money on the table. That's a big one. And the way you do that is by paying attention to organic growth and ASO. And that's what our guest is here to do, because he's going to give us a bit of a masterclass, a little bit also for those of you just starting, because I think that's important. And we applaud you if you're doing this, because do not leave money on the table is a biggie when everything is the state of change that it is. What you're not getting more of this year is budget. So let's get to it, Brian. And our guest, in addition to being an ASO and organic growth expert, also a publisher. He's been building these functions inside companies like Tilting Point, Fabulous, and most recently Fun Plus. Now he works as a consultant, helping studios. So I originally met him at Games Forum Barcelona 2025. And then he was at that point responsible for setting up ASO as a discipline at Fun Plus. And then I met him again, UA Society in London. And the third time is always a charm. I said, gotta have him here. And a little bit of a fun fact, he's also a drummer in a metal band, but it's not so much a fun fact because he's going to show us through the lens of drumming how you can achieve the same discipline in music while you need it in ASO. So here we are, no hacks, all discipline, the real deal. Yevhen Tarasenko, great to have you here. And yeah, great that you could make it.
hey, thanks for having me. Super happy to be here and hope to bring some value.
I'm sure you will.
It's one of these topics that I know that we've discussed on the podcast many times before. Before we kick off, Yevhen, I'm going to ask you about your background and how you got into ASO. Can you define ASO for our listeners and anyone out there who's not familiar with what it is you're doing?
Sure. ASO is apps optimization. It's a discipline in the field of mobile marketing that is mostly responsible for making sure that your presence on the App Store and Google Play Store and all the alternative stores is good. You attract users convert, and more importantly, when users download the app, they see what they expect and they're satisfied.
Perfect. Masterful summary. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come into the sort of the realm of ASO, and does it have anything to do with drumming, or are the two very separate?
In terms of timeline, it was more or less, on the same time. In terms of functions. At the beginning, it was very different for me. I started doing ASO in 2013, where there was no tools. It was Wild West. It was very hard to figure out any help, any best practices. There was no community, so a lot of experimentation and a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Because I was working full time and then jumping on rehearsals with my band a couple times a week for quite a few years, I then realized that there are some parallels. First of all, you need to show up consistently. You work under pressure. And as a drummer and as a key function in the growth mix, you need to be a stable foundation in order to make things happen reliably.
Studying drumming books is only going to take you so far. So that's a fantastic introduction. Thank you. And Peggy, I believe we're doing something a little different. You mentioned a masterclass.
Yeah,
for
it
this
is a
episode.
masterclass. I was just thinking also back to his parallel, I mean, everything depends on the beat, the drummer leads. This is also the pressure, in a sense, of leading the team in ASO and helping them identify and understand, and also be able to translate this value to C-level. So there's a lot on you, Yevhen. And I thought, let's break it down into 4 rules, right? Because looking at organic growth, there are parallels that we'll be working on, and make this fun. It has to be educational and edgy, fun and useful. So we'll dive in. Rule number 1, treat the store like a live channel. And we've talked about this, Yevhen. We've talked about how difficult discoverability has become. I mean, it's obvious there's a new change in ASO nearly every day. And then we have the constant of signal loss, and paid is just harder to scale effectively and efficiently. So if you look at something like your studio and how they're looking at the store presence, they say, one and done. And it feels like it's something that needs to be fixed every so often. But really what you're saying is run it like a live store. So that's your first rule. But tell us what it means to treat a store like a live channel, not a static shelf.
Right. Great question and a great parallel. So for the store page to function properly and to be functional, as I mentioned in the intro section, it should mirror what's happening in the app itself. If that's not working, you're getting less revenue, you're losing users, it's not working as expected. So that should be constant work, because UA changes, product changes, you have to keep up, right?
Right.
And the important distinction here is obviously there are small studios and developers and there are big ones. So if you're a small developer, then you should cover the small basics to make sure you look great, you rank where you want to, more or less. And then as a cherry on top, you should use the latest features provided by the stores, with a great example being here, the iOS 26 update. Was a huge update on the facelift, basically, with all the new design rules. And many of the apps, even the small ones that kept up with that, they get millions of incremental views or featurings or other brownie points from Apple for keeping up with the trends or following the guidebook. So that's my advice for the smaller teams. And for the bigger teams, you have more resources. You should be on top of everything that is going on. There's quite a few frameworks that you can look up. One great framework is from Feature that they released a while ago, and they keep this updated more or less. Follow everything and then focus on the bigger impact and on the relationships with the stores, on getting featured, on being friends, basically.
How did that impact games and apps on the store? And for smaller teams out there who maybe don't have the resources to stay on top of absolutely everything, what are the sort of the key things they should be paying attention to for something along these major updates?
Obviously, a good visual uplift on the front,
Mhm.
but on the back, also a lot of things happened. And we recently had a roundtable during the Business of Apps Berlin, covering those changes. And I know about at least 8. So those are organic custom product pages where you can run the product pages by not using any UA, just by putting in some keywords and hoping that you will rank for those. App Store tag,
Okay.
obviously liquid glass, redesign of the app elements to make sure you're with everyone on that. Apple Games app, which is super important. The impact is debatable, but is probably here to stay. So we should keep an eye on that, on how it evolves and how the game is actually represented on the store. If it's good, don't forget about that. Doubled capacity of the custom product pages, now up to 70, is a great tool to diversify your channels, your approach, to play around with that. Maybe not for all the small teams, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Independent release tracks, that is more relevant for agile teams, smaller teams, because previously you had to submit the, let's say, screenshot test that you approved or in app event with the release. Now you can do that independently.
Okay.
So it can go to the store today, tomorrow.
Cool.
And there were some other things connected with the keyword visibility and how the algorithm tracks the overall semantics of the page and the web version of the App Store, of course. That changed how are you displayed on the web, and you should also be aware of that.
For developers out there who are very early in this journey or who haven't taken their first steps, where do you find this kind of information? What do they need to be tracking to make sure that they're aware of what's coming up?
Well, definitely official channels, the blogs on Apple and Google, and obviously the thought leaders on LinkedIn and other platforms. A lot of people share this information and they make it more digestible for you, because the official language of the official releases on Apple and Google is not always easy to understand or fun to read. So there are quite a few professionals that got you covered on this.
Excellent. So I think what we should do, Peggy, is point people towards Yevhen's LinkedIn page.
Yeah,
That's
you're
the
doing this, right,
subtext I'm definitely getting.
I am one of those people. Yeah, I'm doing my best. And I'm communicating with also a lot of great professionals.
And speaking of that, a studio who wants to get this right over the next quarter, they have to change what they're doing. What's the first thing you'd expect them or want them to change? Because, for example, custom product pages, that's going to be huge. Granted, you can't do tests for 70, that's 70 of them, but it's more and more, the right page for the right player type or segment. So you're able to do a lot of testing, and hopefully when you test, you get a lot more right than wrong. So again, what do they need to do?
I want to see a solid, robust roadmap when we're talking about organics. What I mean by that is, yes, you need to be always on, and you need to know what's your next step. It doesn't have to be chaotic. It should be very structured and to the point, with clear goals and KPIs.
And they can come to you for that, I'm assuming, Yevhen, because
Sure.
KPIs and ASO, that's a tough one to make the match. You have to know what you're going to aim for in order to achieve it. And I think that brings us to rule 2 that we touched upon just a little bit. It's building that always on system, not one-off gigs, right? Because if it's live and the store presence is constantly changing, constantly evolving, then the question is, how are teams going to organize around it? So you're in a band and it's similar. So what is that rule about systems over one-off gigs?
If you're talking about music, people often think that a band or a singer, they release an album and that's it, right?
Mhm.
Which is not the case because there's touring, there's press, there's socials, there's all kinds of podcasts, visibility. Even if they're not doing that and they're live musicians playing the actual instrument, you have to keep playing the instrument between the albums
Mhm.
because otherwise it deteriorates very quickly. We need to be always on the loop, on the run. And the same with organics. We were talking that sometimes it's hard to justify the value. It is not hard to justify the value if you're constantly delivering results, right? So if you decided to update the keywords once in the 6 months, might work, might not work. Doesn't know. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of changes with the algorithm.
Mhm.
But if you're doing this consistently and you're doing testing and you're doing in-app events and you're doing custom product pages and you're educating other stakeholders, other departments about what's going on, then 100% you will get some value.
So when we're talking about always on, again, I'm thinking about resources within developers. Not everybody has a dedicated ASO sort of expert on hand. So how would a team actually put this into practice? You know, how do you balance that long-term discipline, but with the need for those quick wins on an ongoing basis?
Mm. Yeah, definitely the discipline should be there.
Hmm.
And the quick wins or the big victories, that should also be part of the mix, but they should be
Hmm.
planned out, not just a, what's the expression, throw something at the wall and hope it sticks.
Yes.
Uh, yeah. It should be planned. So you should be talking to your adjacent departments and you have to be
Hmm.
friends with those departments to make sure your creatives are updated for Q5, for Christmas, for Halloween.
Mm.
For that, you need the creative team to be available. And they should know that you're planning this so they could put it on their roadmap and not do it on a Friday night or whatever.
Mhm.
Uh, yes, so close communication and good, sturdy KPIs that deliver on, let's say, installs and revenue.
Hmm.
And close communication with other departments amount to also big wins when they're planned.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I was also thinking about that constant always on. I mean, if you think about it, what is always on? We sleep, we need to have our breaks. And that's why it probably also makes sense to be looking out at the help and the tools that are AI powered, or, I mean, you just can't do marketing without AI in 2026. Is there something in the discipline here about also a new discipline or a new way of working with AI to make this happen?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and it ranges again for, I think, different teams, different studios of different size and capabilities. We can go from something very basic,
Mhm.
like just having a good framework of dialogues
Hmm.
or spaces within your AI tool and robust prompting. I recently posted something about it, how to automate your ASO process up to 40%.
Oh,
It's on my LinkedIn, on my Substack. Yeah,
Hmm.
feel free to check that out. It's very
okay.
easy to implement. I do it. I did it for myself. I just described this in the blog to put my thoughts together and to make it useful for other people who were asking me about it. Um, Super basic, but
Hmm.
there's also tools and systems again by AppTweak that I know of, by Split Metrics, by Feature, by other big companies that offer you one or the other way to automate your process and get good results at scale. And there's tools popping up constantly, not only for ASO,
Hmm.
but for the whole marketing mix in general. because
Yeah.
measurement is a nightmare, as we all know. And there's quite a few companies that trying to solve that issue right now. So keep an eye out on that. And I think in general, by being in the loop, by being in the know of the latest developments, you can just cut down drastically on the pains you've been feeling for the last couple of years, I guess, starting with the depreciation of IDFA and those things.
So in a way, it's almost good to be starting over and not feeling late because there are these tools that weren't there before. I mean, 40% automation, that's a win, Brian.
It absolutely is, Peggy. And what I'm hearing here is you're consistently coming back to you've got to be looking ahead, you've got to be planning, you've got to make sure that you're aware of what's ahead of you, because otherwise all you're capable of doing is reacting. And Yevhen, we hear this so often, is that this is no longer just a marketing problem. It's no longer just a single team problem. This is something that the entire studio, the entire company has to pull together in order to be able to deliver. Is that kind of true?
Yeah, 100%. So organics and ASO doesn't work in isolation, obviously, but some people think it does, but that's not the way. The proper way to do this, as we just said, different teams should work in synergy and be friends with each other. Typical example of the workflow in the studio is that creative builds assets for paid UA and product ships features to the game, but they do not tell it about these features to anyone else. There's no maybe there's a press release, maybe there's something out there, but what you can do for free relatively quickly and increase your impressions, possibly get featured, increase DAUs, increase revenue, is to create an in-app event or promotional content on Google Play.
Yeah.
And tell millions of users about your new and exciting event that is happening in the game. Yeah. And imagine if you do this more than once.
Yeah. It's about sharing it properly, because you do have a community and you need to keep them informed because they will get excited about that and explore the new features. And that brings me, I think, really well to rule number 3 here, which is make product, marketing, and creative play the same song. That's what we're talking about here. There's alignment. There's a need to be playing the same song and carrying the same rhythm. Where do you see that fall apart most often, Yevhen? Because you just said yourself, it can't be done in isolation, but it often still is.
The quickest answer is teams do not talk to each other. I don't know why, but
yeah.
Maybe this podcast is your sign for 2026 to start talking to your UA people, to your creative people, to your product people, to your stakeholders. Maybe give your CMO an idea to pull everyone together and discuss the roadmaps and align them and see what everyone else is doing and maybe contribute to that, or at least know about their capacity and about their plans.
So true.
This is super obvious, super easy advice. Some people will probably cringe at this, but based on my experience, so many teams do not talk and they do not deliver the message across. Like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're trying to achieve. Let's synchronize on this. Let's work as one team.
It makes so much sense. If you're building a cool new feature into your game, if you're updating something, you're fixing a bug even, or, why not communicate it? Why not make it the basis of, really good news stories? But I've worked with developers for so many years, Yevhen, and it's so common to this very day that the development team just simply wouldn't think of telling marketing, about something that they might think is mundane, but they could get users, get players really excited. So I'm with you 100%. But when teams do
Yeah.
communicate and when they actually get this right, what changes within the organic performance that you find people tend to underestimate?
A quick counterpoint. One of the reasons why this is not happening because every
Mhm.
vertical has their own KPIs and they care about
Mhm.
those
Yeah.
KPIs, rightfully so,
Yes.
right? Like if I'm talking to someone else, how does it contribute to my work, to my deliverables?
Sure.
But it actually does. And on the company level, again, if the stakeholders are educated, people who
Mhm.
are responsible for those KPIs, they will see the value because
Mm.
this will work as a band, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you will work towards the same goal anyway, increasing your visibility, increasing your market share, the revenue.
Mhm.
And at the end, that pays off.
Of course.
So
This is the tough one that I always hear when I'm speaking with marketers. And it's basically, the creative team, they're building assets. They have to meet specific KPIs, and it's mostly about paid performance. So, what is it that you can tell them, this team listening in and the team, the entire studio that says, yes, it is about paid performance, but it is also equally about the user experience and can boost ASO, can boost the organic to get creative, to think more broadly, and to let the company incentivize them differently.
uh, good point. Also, a very hard point to communicate and break through
Mhm.
usually because, yeah, we have a finite budget, finite amount of time of human resources that
Mhm.
can deliver this many creatives. And why should we bother about organics or whatever? It's
Yeah.
there. We have screenshots. What more do you want, right?
Yeah.
But you can look at a couple of things here. First of all, how's your conversion doing? According
Mhm.
to the benchmarks, according to the competition, according to your own funnel, which is also very important. Are you satisfied with that? In most
Mhm.
cases, you shouldn't be satisfied. There's always room for improvement. Uh, if you have something in the backlog, if you have previous wins in the backlog, you can showcase those and explain that if we do this successful iteration, we have a possibility to improve our conversion rate by X amount.
Mhm.
Or creative team also is involved with custom product pages and in-app events. So there are specific benchmarks and KPIs that you can bring as an example for improving the situation by a lot. If you have previous experience, great. If you have previous results, that's awesome. If you don't, just
Mhm.
take the benchmarks,
Mhm.
the category average, the competitor benchmarks, your own expectations, your own experience. Like, can this be more impactful? Can this be more
Mhm.
attractive?
Mhm.
And then build a model and show it to the stakeholders and tell them that if we do this over this time frame, we think we can achieve this number of installs or
Mhm.
increase revenue by this much. And
Yeah.
it's important to understand
Which
that.
brings us to rule number 4. I couldn't
Mhm.
hope for a better segue because it's all about measuring. And rule number
Yeah,
4, measure incrementality and solo your track. So it's a rule about measurement. We're not necessarily drummers and into music or metal. So explain that parallel to start.
okay. Yeah, by following your track, I mean, well, during the recording, everyone records their own parts normally.
Mhm.
It's better for production. It's better for clarity of the sound. Sometimes you can mix and match some things in a better way.
Mhm.
But yeah, overall, you see you hear the whole song, right, at the end.
Right.
Mhm.
In marketing, you also hear the whole song, or you see the overall amount of installs.
Mhm.
And a lot of
Gotcha.
marketers, they report total organic installs. Like we
Mhm.
have this amount of installs, or we have X amount of percent more or less than the previous month.
Mhm.
But what's missing here is the established baseline and how much
Mhm.
did we contribute on top of what was already going on and what would have been achieved without the organic function, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it is important when reporting something to establish the baseline and then show the incremental lift on top of that.
Mhm.
I did this during this time frame, and this is by how much we increased the organics.
Mhm.
Or if you're talking about conversion rate, it's very important to remember that conversion rate impacts the overall conversion rate of the whole funnel. So user sees the ad or user comes from the source to the store page. There are no options with the alternative stores and all
Yeah.
kinds of things that are trying to survive in 2025 and 2026, but 95 at least percent of users are landing on a store page and they convert or do not convert there and go further down the funnel. So the way you impact the funnel with the conversion and then retention is super important. And this is your solo track. This is
Got
your
it.
impact here.
Yeah.
So if you are able to single that out to show your specific impact in terms of conversion, downloads,
Mhm.
revenue, according to your calculations, compared to the baseline, then yeah, you're golden.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can see you entirely. Because if you don't know what would have happened without your work, nobody's going to credit you. So let's make that practical, Yevhen. You've recommended a baseline versus initiative measurement. Can you walk us through that? Simply for the listeners, please.
Okay, yeah, sure. So to create a baseline, you should define a normal amount of
Mm-hmm.
things you're measuring in your key markets, in your key geos. Ideally over the 30 days, but this is the perfect scenario where nothing changed for a longer
Mm-hmm.
amount of time. Usually doesn't happen. So it's okay to take shorter periods, like 14 days, 7 days, but make sure that they more or less are replicated throughout longer period of time. So we see this baseline of this number within 6 months, but in huge chunks, not
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's your baseline. And then you do something,
Mm-hmm.
you see the impact, and you calculate that impact by, let's say it's downloads, and you want to see the revenue. You take those downloads from the console, and then you have to cross-reference with the NMP or any other source that, let's say, Peggy is using
Yeah.
and stakeholders are familiar with. And you have the organics there, right? Organics is everything that is not paid.
Right.
So your numbers from the console should match the numbers from MMP roughly. And then you multiply that by ARFU or the LTV. Could be cohorted, could be straight, depending on your monetization model. Ask your fellow data scientists what's the best approach. And yeah, you get the incremental revenue. Clean incremental revenue that you can report, and you can tell your boss, whoever that is, that over this period of time, we brought this amount of installs that converted into this amount of revenue.
Yeah. Again, it
Very
makes
cool.
sense. You have to show your work.
Yeah. And show it cleanly. I think that's a real important point here. I haven't heard it explained that well, Yevhen, so I can see why people come to you
Thanks.
for what they have, because that is
Thank
very
you.
clear. Even I got it, so that's something. Wouldn't say I can be a consultant, but I understand now better what you do. And we want to swing out now that we've done the rules and talk about some takeaways for our audience, because they've
Hmm.
probably been
Hmm.
studying this, taking notes, putting the transcript through AI, whatever. But if they're listening in and they want to take organic growth very seriously this year, because that's the point of these rules, and you're a small team, can't do everything. Is there something here that they can say, I'll do that later, or I can skip this because they need to focus? We gave them 4 rules. What's one they can skip?
That would be probably rule number 2.
Hmm.
Okay.
Just doing one-off, 1 gig, and
Yeah.
then disappearing for 6 months. This is not how it should work. But yeah, hopefully in the context of things that I explained, it is pretty obvious that you should work as a machine, as a band. You should need to be
Yeah.
consistent.
It
Mm.
makes sense. Yeah. It's with everything changing so quickly around you, you can't afford to just fire, forget, and then go on holiday. Um,
Yeah, it doesn't make
and
sense.
and yeah, I absolutely agree. And one very, very last thing, is there anything out there that you see people doing that's now just so outdated or just, old fashioned that they should just stop immediately?
Mm, it is sort of a meme in the organic growth
Hmm.
community, but the keywords, everyone's debating on
Hmm.
whether you should work with keywords, whether you should update keywords, where you should try to be number one for
Hmm.
streaming service or
Right.
something like this. And you probably shouldn't. So the way the algorithm changed on both
Hmm.
Google and especially iOS last year,
Hmm.
it pays more attention to the holistic semantic understanding of your listing.
Hmm.
Like, where does it belong? What does it do? Who are the
Got you.
competitors? What's the category? What's the bubble for your app
Hmm.
or game?
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, and you should aim for that. You should not aim for specific keywords, doing keyword stuffing, mentioning best puzzle game 2026 50 times in your description. No,
Yeah.
you should aim for users, for conversion rate, for readability, and for the machine to understand what is the game about, where does it belong, what to expect from it.
Mhm.
That's the
Mhm.
best approach.
Perfect.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because there's nothing worse than reading some of these descriptions. And it's so obvious and so confusing. So now the algorithm is going to want them to be readable and understandable and not just a bunch of buzzwords. So that's good news for us as players, Brian.
Absolutely.
Also,
Absolutely.
people should be paying attention to localizations. So how you
Hmm.
localize and if you're actually using the terms that people use to search, not just copy your English and throw it into Google Translate and put it on the store.
We could go on, but sadly we've run out of time. So, Yevhen, thank you so much. It has been information dense. I think you would agree, Peggy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so pleased that you are out there sharing this, Yevon. We'll have that in the show notes as well, where your blog is. And I know I'm following you on LinkedIn anyway, but it's helpful because it's moving so fast. You're not going to learn this anywhere else. You're going to learn it
Yeah.
from
Hmm.
reading what you're sharing. So great that you are.
Yeah,
Thanks for
we
having
really
me.
appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of my 2026 resolutions was to be an educator and change people's opinion on what is organic growth and how it functions and what's the value. So thank you so much for providing me the opportunity to talk about it.
You are very welcome, and I would say you're kicking off the year um, very proactively and very well. So we would love to have you back on. I think the localization idea it
Yeah.
has
Good.
a
Keeper.
lot of legs.
Yes.
So we will
Good,
see what
good.
we can do maybe before the end of the year, help you double up on your New Year's resolutions. But before we let you go, we have a couple of questions that we ask all of our guests. The first is, what are you playing right now? What games on your phone? What are you spending a little bit more time on than you possibly should be? And then the second one is, what's your favorite game of all time?
Mm, the hardest questions of the podcast.
Oh, yes.
I'm specifically trying to get the latest or one of the latest models of the phones because gaming on the phone is getting serious. And
Mhm.
I've been trying out all of the different AAA games, like Death Stranding running on an iPhone.
Mhm.
Why? I've played Resident Evil. I've played Wreckfest, which is an older game but runs perfectly. I've played quite a few games on my mobile device, and with USB-C, you can now connect them to the monitor and use a controller, and it's basically a console.
Mhm.
It's super exciting, but the most hours I've put into Gran Turismo 7 on PlayStation by using my VR headset, which is just amazing. I'm huge VR enthusiast. I've completed more than a dozen games over the
Oh,
last couple of
fabulous.
years.
Wow.
And yeah, Gran Turismo is honestly mind-blowing in terms of immersion, in terms of amount of content, is super cool. And as for the favorite game of all time, I guess a bit of a spoiler here. This is Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
I
this specific game is top 5, 100%. But in general, what Remedy does is very close to my heart, and I've played all of the games at least twice, or 3 times, or 4 times.
Mhm.
So I'm a huge fan of what Remedy is doing in general.
Very good. Very strong choices.
Solid choices.
Thank you.
Well, this was great, and it is a date, Yevhen. We will come back. We will have localization. And in the meantime, as I said, in the show notes, all about your blog. And yes, we now have 2 New Year's resolutions sorted. Brian, yours with your strategy. I can't wait to hear more about it. And I hope that you will
Oh,
bring
yes.
some of that to the show as well. And Yevhen, again, such a pleasure. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Always a joy, Peggy.
This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@PocketGamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter @PGBiz, and you can reach out to us through the PocketGamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at PocketGamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the PocketGamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the PocketGamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future.